Ledger Lifers, welcome back to another deep dive into an intriguing macroeconomic topic. We have often heard Raoul Pal from Real Vision talking about the concept of inflating our way out of this debt crisis. Intrigued by this notion, I have decided to explore this idea further and share some insights with some concrete examples. Let's take a close look at the current debt levels and evaluate if inflating our way out is a viable strategy at present. It promises to be a thought-provoking and enlightening discussion. Here are some charts Raoul Pal shared a few days ago that capture the relationship between crypto and liquidity. Crypto liquidity, it really loves global M2. This is the moment when Bitcoin outperforms the MTX and crypto becomes the supermassive black hole. Our weekly global liquidity index is about to break above zero, and our GMI total liquidity is above zero and rising as well, as is Fed net liquidity, and the sweet general sound of the cowbell can be heard in the not too distant future. Now, with all the debt around in the world, we may wonder how global liquidity is rising and how families, organizations, and institutions get out of this debt bubble. Picture this. Credit card debt in the US has soared by $48 billion in the third quarter of 2023, hitting a staggering $1.08 trillion. The average person is forking out $1,600 monthly on credit card payments, battling inflation armed with nothing but plastic. But wait, the oracles of finance like Raoul Pal are singing a surprisingly upbeat tune amid this financial storm. So, what's the buzz about inflating our way out of debt? It's like a controlled burn, using inflation to chip away at the real value of debt. Central banks become economic acrobats, delicately balancing liquidity to manage the ballooning debt. Raoul Pal suggests they can manipulate liquidity and asset values, essentially making the debt mountain seem a bit smaller. Now, let's talk numbers. Credit card debt has ballooned by $400 billion in the past decade, with interest rates at a historic 25%. Ouch. Pal argues that controlling the flow of liquidity is key. By making assets appreciate, the relative size of debt could shrink. But, and there's always a but, this strategy is not without risk. Raoul Pal doesn't stop at liquidity control. He envisions central banks maintaining negative real yields where inflation exceeds interest rates to fend off deflation. This would, in theory, lighten the global debt load. But as with any financial strategy, it's a double-edged sword with potential consequences stretching into the future. Now, enter the government. During the COVID-19 era, direct transfer payments swelled consumption, adding weight to central bank balance sheets. Pal suggests this trend could continue, injecting more liquidity into the system, inflating asset prices as the currency's value dips. But hold on, this financial alchemy isn't risk-free. While it might paint a rosy picture for debt management, it could lead to currency devaluation and shake the foundations of economic stability and growth. The question lingers: how sustainable and effective are these measures in the grand scheme? It's like a controversial symphony, with central banks conducting an orchestra of economic instruments, which are interest rates, inflation, and liquidity. It might help us skate over thin ice, but the risk of dissonance looms, and which threatens to disrupt the harmony that keeps the global economy in sync. Let's shift gears and delve into a classic example of how central banks influence asset inflation and manage debt through quantitative easing. And this quantitative easing is a monetary policy where a central bank buys securities to increase the money supply and stimulate lending and investment. And do you remember the 2008 financial crisis? The Fed unleashed quantitative easing, buying long-term securities and effectively increasing the money supply. Lower interest rates led investors to seek higher returns in riskier assets, inflating asset values across the board. As asset prices rise, the value of assets relative to debt improves. This can reduce the debt-to-equity ratio for individuals and firms, making it easier to borrow or pay down existing debt. It's like a financial magic trick. Governments benefit too. By buying their own debt, central banks keep interest rates low, making it cheaper for the government to finance its debt. If inflation picks up, the real value of government debt erodes over time, making it more manageable. But, and it's a significant but, where quantitative easing has complex repercussions ranging from potential asset bubbles to income inequality, not to mention currency devaluation if not managed with precision. It serves as a reminder of the potent tools at central banks' disposal, which sculpt our economic landscape, yet with outcomes filled with uncertainties that demand vigilant oversight. You might then ask, how does this all trickle down to our realm of crypto and NFTs? The next time you witness substantial gains in your crypto portfolio, understand that these are indicators of liquidity making its way into this domain as well. Now, it seems we have hit rock bottom and the liquidity tap has been turned on full blast as illustrated by Raoul's charts. This influx boosts asset values, potentially diminishing relative debt levels. It's a captivating dynamic, but only time will reveal whether we are headed towards a hyperinflationary debacle or a manageable cycle of debt that can be gradually eroded through inflation. One thing, however, stands crystal clear. You are likely better off anchoring your earnings in hard assets to safeguard your wealth and savings from being eroded by inflation. So, ledger lifers, as we sail through the financial straits, comprehending the machinations backstage becomes imperative. Central banks are at the helm, yet the symphony they compose contains both harmonious prospects and discordant risk. So stay tuned for more deep dives into the vibrant world of finance. Don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that notification bell. Until our paths cross again, strive for equilibrium in your ledger and clarity in your financial journey. Signing off from Ledger Life, where finance meets insight. So take care and may your investments always tip the scales in your favor.